Hello everybody, welcome to Y.I.T Yoga and our first day. Today we're going to be talking about sitting. We'll touch a little bit on rooting. We'll go over a lot of kind of what you can use around the house if you don't have proper equipment to do yoga. And we're also going to touch on creating a healthy habit. So to start out, I really want you to focus on why you want to do yoga and what yoga should mean to you. It's very important here to build that healthy habit. So we want to really emphasize and physically have something to look at, to visualize as a goal for the future. So something that's very important to you and really motivates you. So for myself, doing yoga is not just to better myself, but to help other people is really why I got into doing yoga, as we covered in the last video. And now we're going to really find that passion or desire. It can be to be more healthy, can be to touch your toes. It's really essentially what you want it to be. There's no limitation to what you want the outcome of yoga to be. If you want more energy, even if it's to realize your worth as a entity on this planet, there's so many reasons to why you want to do yoga. Not only is it great for your health, but you'll start to notice things mentally, and even in the world you'll start to notice changes through yourself. Subtle changes to start, and then they slowly get larger as you progress in yoga. So now that we've kind of visualized that goal or inspiration, it can really be anything. If you can write it down, fine, write it down. It's good to have something to look at. If it's a picture, that's fine. If it's an item, that's fine. There's no limitation to this either. So the beauty of yoga is there's so much choice and option to doing everything in yoga, which is kind of the spice of life. There's always variety, and that's kind of what I'm going to be offering here, is a variety of poses to do. If you can't achieve some of the ones that some of the crazy yogis can do, like bending into a pretzel or putting your legs behind your head, which I obviously can't do, but I mean, if that's your end goal, fine, that's cool. Like, do you. That's the most important thing, is being happy. And if you're not being happy, or if you're not happy doing this, then maybe yoga might not be right for you. But I encourage you to just give it a try and kind of experience what yoga is truly about. It seems to have been lost and miscommunicated over the years, and as we bring it over to the Western culture, there's bits and pieces that get lost fairly easily. So today we're going to really start to focus on our seating and sitting on the floor. This is crucial because you don't really want to sit in a chair. If you're going to use a chair, you want to make sure it's a rigid chair, and so on and so forth. Just make sure it's not going to collapse on you, and it can support your weight. So now that we found the goal, we can use that goal to kind of inspire us when we get disheartened through our yoga practice. Kind of go back to that end goal, the end goal, and really kind of emphasize why we're doing yoga. You know, you might get discouraged from doing yoga. It's okay to take a break from it if you feel like you need a break. The most important thing here, I can not stress enough, is listening to your body And that's really important when it comes to doing the poses in yoga, because some of them are very strenuous on the body, especially if you don't have the muscles built up for it. And then it can be very frustrating to start out. But again, I encourage you to stick with it because, like I said, your body wasn't built in a day, so it's going to take longer than a day to kind of really start to see and feel the benefits from actually practicing yoga. So in creating this habit, we really want to stick to our guns on this. If you're going to be practicing with us, we're going to be trying to release about once a week, which will help you because doing something once a week can often help to build a healthy habit. It often takes upwards of 2 to 3 weeks depending on how often you're doing said habit. So really it's coming out of living through not through habit, but actually living through intent. So we really want our intent to be to better ourselves. That's kind of the whole reason that we're here today, is to better ourselves. So moving forward from there, we're going to use that inspiration to kind of help the yoga practice be more meaningful throughout the entire process. This will help you stay encouraged and really stay focused, which in some cases some people really struggle with. So I really would like to help you break past any kind of blockades that you're facing in your life. So if you are a chronic pain sufferer, these poses can be very beneficial. Again, you do have to take your time and really work through them. I myself, I suffer from chronic pain and I have done so since 2012. But yoga has really improved my quality of life just because without the calming of the mind, I was always focusing on the pain from the major concussion that I got. And it's just helped so immensely with dealing with the pain and suffering that I couldn't imagine myself not doing yoga just because of how great I feel after practice. So now that we have our goal set out and we can really start to inspire ourselves, we really want to focus on proper equipment. I know you're not going to have proper equipment to start off, like a yoga mat, yoga blocks, a strap, and all that. So I'm going to give you items that are around the house that you can use. Typically, most people have them. So to start out, if you don't have a traditional style yoga mat, well, not truly traditional. Traditional would be a tiger skin, but more recently, traditional is a style of mat that's padded. You can get some kind of shock absorption and padding out of from any type of harder floor. Or if you don't have a yoga mat, you can use a blanket. If it's not thick enough, you can fold it up like I have this one here. But don't limit yourself to just straight yoga props. You can use a blanket as long as it's not going to slide around on the floor too much. That's fine. Where you're not going to slide out on the hands or the feet too much. So you want to make sure you're going to get good grip from it. Moving on, yoga blocks. These are very essential, especially to somebody beginning yoga. These are going to add so much more mobility to your practice. I noticed for me when I was starting to get into stretching, I'm fairly flexible because I breakdanced a lot when I was younger. So I do have a little bit of natural flexibility to myself. But these, I cannot get over enough how great they are, especially for some of the people that I've helped guide through yoga. Sometimes you can't touch the floor, or you can't get your butt down to the floor far enough. Guess what? A yoga block will help you get to the floor. It'll help you relax and actually start to progress through poses. If you don't have a yoga block, guess what? Most people have books. I would recommend a thicker book if you can, relatively similar size to a yoga block. Keep in mind they're a little bit heavier, so if you're going to be using multiple books, make sure you have the thickest, heaviest one at the bottom and stack them accordingly so you're not stacking bigger books on top of smaller books. You really want a strong base. Moving on from there, traditionally you could use like a strap, but if you don't have a strap, you could use a belt. A belt works just as fine as a strap does, and it's probably something that most people do have in their house. Not many people don't wear belts. Moving on from here, if you are limited to staying in a chair, that's fine. We're going to be doing a lot of modifications for chair poses. So if you can't get down to the floor, I would encourage you to try and get down to the floor, just because there's so many more benefits to being on the floor. Sitting is one of them. Increases a lot. So we'll talk about that after this. So yeah, make sure, like I touched on before, make sure the chair is nice and sturdy. You don't want it to have any chance of collapsing on you. That would just be counterproductive here. So yeah, make sure you just got some good stuff around the house that you can use. Not super complicated. Okay, so now moving on from there, I'm going to touch on rooting. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in a chair or if you're on top of a block. The whole rooting goal is to stay connected to the planet. And when we do root, we actually lessen our chance for injury, and we actually improve circulation and blood flow through the body. So you're going to get better benefits to the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, you name it. Anything that requires blood in the body is going to benefit from practicing yoga. Again, using blocks, super great, and you can root through them, which is even more important, especially for those people who are struggling with some poses. It can be very beneficial with a block. So keeping rooting in mind, we're going to move on to sitting now. So now to touch on sitting, I am going to go over a few different styles of it. You can sit in full lotus if you're possibly able to do that, if you're flexible enough. I am only recently flexible enough to do it, and I've been practicing for over 8 months. It's not easy, but before I even get into crossing the legs, I'm going to talk about rooting through the sit bones. This is super, super important and something that has been forgotten and not taught over the years. So, we're going to use our sit bones to sit on the floor properly. Most of the time when you sit, you're actually sitting on your gluteus maximus. You're sitting on your buttocks muscles. You're not properly sitting on your bones. Now, thinking about the bones, we want to imagine the pelvis. So if you can imagine the pelvis, it's fairly large. It spans from your lower abdomen all the way through your buttocks, and it's where your hips connect to your body. So we want to imagine the top of our hips, so kind of really feel for your hips here. Mine are right here, top of my hips are right where my thumbs are. Turn sideways here in a moment just to kind of show you what we're going to be doing. So I've got my tops of my hips here. Find the tops of your hips. And then if you take your fingers straight down and you put your fingers right by your hips, you'll be able to reach under your buttocks. So I'm going to turn sideways so that you can see. So I've found my hips, and now I'm reaching down to the floor, and I'm reaching under. So almost directly where my hips are, right under where my hips were, is where my sit bone is. And oftentimes the glute is over top of the sit bone. So what you want to do is you really want to reach underneath that sit bone, closer towards the anus, and reach and pull the extra skin or extra muscles out of the way. I myself have a abnormally large amount of extra skin in my body. I'm not even pulling super hard, but my elbows do have a lot. I've got it in my neck, in my chin. So I do have to reach under and actually pull the extra skin out from underneath of my sit bone to actually sit on my sit bone, or my skin pulls my glute back underneath my sit bone. It's not comfortable for sitting for a long time. So when you sit on the sit bones, you'll actually start to feel the benefit of it. So I'm going to root into my other sit bone now. So as you can see, before I actually engage sitting on my sit bones, my pelvis is actually tilted. So when I actually engage in Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha, which we'll cover, and I'm pulling my pelvic floor up and strengthening my pelvic floor, I'm working on my sit bones, I'm working on my spine, I'm working on my posture. At the same time, I'm strengthening all of the core, my organs. I'm doing so much here, and I'm just sitting. I'm not doing anything. Now keep in mind, to start out, this is not going to be easy. For me, it was painful. I couldn't even sit like this for probably 30 seconds. It was not easy. It was rough. And I worked at it. And I've been sitting on the floor for probably almost a year. And my back is stronger. My core is stronger. My posture is way, way better. And I just feel great. I feel awesome just from sitting. Not even doing yoga. Just sitting properly. Which essentially is yoga. So now we're going to touch on a little bit of more of the rooting. So when you do sit on your sit bones, you're rooting to the floor. At the same time, we're getting energy from the planet because we are connected to the planet. Doesn't matter if you're on some crazy high sky building doing yoga, you're still connected to the planet through the building. Okay? As high as you get off the ground, it doesn't matter. You're always connected to the ground in some way, unless you're in a hot air balloon or an airplane. But typically you won't be doing yoga in those areas. So, to further your connection, rooting is always going to be your best option. So, keep in mind, sitting is very, very important. Rooting is very, very important. And to keep that goal in the back of your head, or if you need to while you practice, you can have that picture, that word, whatever your inspiration is in front of you. That can be your drishti, your gaze. It can be something that you're going to look at whenever you need inspiration, or you need something to kind of distract you from something going on outside or inside your house. Or you can use it to simply distract the mind, to gaze at, or to kind of push past a pose that you're struggling with. If your breath's not working, oftentimes the visualization of your goal will help you kind of push past with the breath. Again, we'll cover a lot of distraction techniques that you can use in some of the next videos. So that's all we have for today. I hope it wasn't too much. If it was a little overwhelming, don't forget to pause, rewind. You can go back and watch it again. Thank you for joining me on my first day at Y.I.T Yoga, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Namaste.